You're probably juggling tasks across tools, emails, sticky notes, spreadsheets, and maybe a shared to-do list. It's super chaotic and things slip through the cracks. But if your team is already using Microsoft 365, there's a powerful tool right under your nose, Microsoft Planner. Over the past 15 years working with Microsoft tools, I've seen countless teams ignore Planner, either because it looks too simple or it feels too overwhelming to get started. The truth is, Planner hits a sweet spot. It gives you just enough structure to keep work organized without the complexity of traditional project management tools. I must know, I've shown millions of people here on YouTube how to get more done with Microsoft 365, and Planner is one of the most underrated tools. So in this video, I'll walk you through everything you need to know about Microsoft Planner to give you a head start and help you hit the ground running. Let's start simple because most people skip this part and then wonder why Planner feels confusing. And speaking of simple but essential, if you want to go deeper, not just with Planner, but with the entire Microsoft 365 toolbox, I've put everything into one place for you. My Microsoft 365 Productivity Masterclass shows you how to make Teams, Outlook, To-Do, OneNote, Planner, and Loop work together so you can save time, reduce daily chaos, and actually focus on the work that matters. So if that sounds helpful, you'll find the link right below. And now back to Planner. If you're working in Microsoft Teams, you already have access to Planner. You just might not know where to find it or what you're looking at when it opens. To access it, open Microsoft Teams. On the left sidebar, look for the Planner app. If you don't see it, click on the 3 dots and search for Planner. Or it's already there. Once you open it, I recommend right-clicking and selecting Pin so it stays in your sidebar from now on. When you click on Planner, you'll notice a navigation bar on the left with 3 key areas: My Day, My Tasks, and My Plans. Let's break down what each of these views does, because this is where many people get confused. My Day is your daily overview. It's a default view that is created automatically by showing all your tasks that are due today. Maybe you know the My Day view from To Do, where you can add tasks manually as well, which is not possible here in Planner. It simply highlights what you have on your list for today. And then there's My Tasks, which is your full list of all tasks assigned to you across all plans. I like My Day to have a snapshot of current priorities, but I also like My Tasks to get an overall feeling of my projects and to do. You'll see everything that has your name on it, no matter which team or plan it came from. It even shows the tasks that were assigned in a to-do list, either personal or private, or the emails you have flagged in Outlook. You'll see the source in the second column called Plan. For more clarity, you can sort these tasks by due date, by priority, or by progress, and you can switch from a list view to a board view in the top ribbon if you prefer to see things laid out like sticky notes. Additionally, you might want to filter for certain tasks, which can be done by using the filter option in the top right corner. If you want to zoom out, you can also use the general filters option at the top. Either you show all your tasks, only private tasks, tasks that were assigned to you, or flagged emails. Thereby, you can quickly see where tasks are coming from and choose a view that suits you best. And finally, there's My Plans. This is where your shared work happens. These are the planner boards you're part of, often organized around teams, departments, or projects, but also your personal plans or shared lists from To Do are there. Think of each plan like a digital whiteboard where you and your colleagues organize everything that needs to get done. You can scroll through the list of plans, favorite the ones you use most, and click into any plan to see the full task board. Each plan can be customized with its own buckets, labels, assignments, and views, and we'll get into all of that in just a bit. Within the plan overview, there's one more thing to know. At the top, there are similar filters like in My Tasks, where you can select which plans to show, either recent, shared, personal, pinned, or My Teams. Again, that's a great way to get a broader view of your plans and projects. But for now, this is the most important takeaway. Planner inside Teams gives you one place to manage both your personal focus and your shared team responsibilities. You just need to know which view to use. Now that you know where to find Planner and how the main views work, let's create your first task. You'll start in the My Tasks view. This is where all tasks assigned to you across all shared plans, shared to-do lists, or from Outlook emails come together. But you can also create standalone tasks here, just for yourself. At the bottom, click on Add New Task. Instead of a pop-up window, a text field appears right where you clicked. Just start typing the task name directly, for example, prepare Q3 financial report or follow up on client proposal. Once the task is added, you can set a due date, choose a priority level, and update the status. And most importantly, decide where the task should live. By default, it's a private task. You'll recognize this by the little house icon next to it. But you can also assign the task to one of your Planner plans. Just note that you can only move it to an actual Planner board, not to a shared list synced from Microsoft To Do. So if you're trying to add a task to a shared to-do list that syncs with Planner, you'll need to do that from the My Plans tab by opening the plan directly and creating the task there. But now back to the private task you just created. Here's the part most people don't realize. This task doesn't just stay in Planner. It also syncs automatically to your assigned to me list in Microsoft To Do. If you have To Do open, you'll see it pop up there too. Sometimes it shows up instantly, and other times it might take a moment or two to sync, but it always gets there. That means you can manage your personal tasks in To Do while still collaborating with your teams in Planner without anything slipping through the cracks. And if you're someone who uses Outlook tasks, the sync works there too, but only for certain task types. Personal tasks that you create in My Tasks in Planner show up in your Outlook task list, but tasks created in a shared or private Planner plan won't automatically appear in your Outlook task list. However, both types of tasks seamlessly sync from Planner to To Do. That's why I usually recommend either using Planner or To Do as your central hub, depending on your personal preferences and working style. Now that you know how to add tasks, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the real heart of Planner, creating and managing full plans. To create a new plan, go to the My Plans tab in the Planner app inside Teams, and then click on the New Plan button. You'll find this either at the top right or at the bottom of the left-hand pane. A pop-up will appear, giving you the option to start from a template or create a basic empty plan. I recommend taking a moment to explore all of the templates. They're helpful if you're working on something like onboarding, event planning, or project tracking. If you don't use one right away, it's good to know what's available. This decision, personal or shared, is important depending on how you plan to use Planner. So if you want to collaborate with others, make sure to select Add to a Group. Once the plan is created, all the members of the group will have immediate access to the plan. On the other hand, if you leave that box unchecked and create the plan without linking it to a team, it becomes a personal plan. This means only you can access it unless you explicitly share it later. And that's easier than you might think. Just click into the private plan you want to share. Make sure it's actually a private plan. You can check this if there is a lock icon in the top right next to the share button. Then click the Share button and choose whether to create a group or add to an existing group. If you choose to create a new group, you'll be prompted to name it, add a description, choose the privacy settings, and most importantly, add members by entering their email addresses. Once you click Create Group, the plan will be connected to this new Microsoft 365 group. All group members will now have access to the plan. You'll also notice that the plan's icon changes from the standard purple icon to a colored one with the group initials. In the plan details, you'll see a note confirming that the members of the plan are now part of the group. And from this point on, any files, chats, or shared content related to this group will be accessible to all members. If you need to, you can continue adding more members using the Add Members field. Alternatively, if you already have an existing group that you want to connect your plan to, click the Share button again and select Add to Existing Group. A drop-down menu will appear where you can choose the group you want to link the plan to. Once you select it and confirm, the plan will be shared with all members of that group, and again, everyone in that group will now have access to the plan and any associated materials. Now, before we jump into the final and just as important set of tips, here's a quick heads up. If you want weekly tips on how to use Microsoft 365 more effectively, including Planner, Teams, and the rest of the toolbox, check out the link in the description. When you sign up for my newsletter, you'll also get free access to a 7-day mini masterclass that gives you a sneak peek into my full productivity course. Once your plan is created, it's time to make it work for you and your team. This is where Planner starts to feel less like a blank board and more like a real productivity tool. When you open a plan, you'll land in the board view. This is the default layout and it works like a Kanban board. Tasks are organized into vertical columns called buckets. These buckets help you group related tasks and you can name them however you like. Even if you have chosen a template, you can still rename the buckets by clicking in their names. Some teams use buckets for stages like to do, in progress, and done, and others prefer categories like design, content, and review. It's really up to you and depends on your workflow and the type of projects you are dealing with. To add a bucket, just click Add New Bucket on the very right. Then start creating tasks within that bucket. You can add tasks by clicking plus Add Task under the relevant bucket, type the name and hit Enter, and that's it. You've started building your board. But let's take it a step further and customize the task. When you click into a task, there's quite a bit you can do. First, you can edit the task name if needed. Sometimes a quick rewording helps make things clearer. Just below that, you can assign the task to one or more team members. But keep in mind, though, that assignments apply to the whole task, not to individual checklist items. Speaking of checklists, this is a great way to break down a task into smaller steps. You can add as many items as you need, and if it's helpful, choose to show the checklist on the task preview, so it's visible from the board without opening the task. Next, you can apply labels, color-coded tags that help you quickly categorize tasks. You can rename them to match your workflow, like waiting on client, needs review, or topic-specific tags like finance or marketing. You can apply multiple labels to a task, but it's important to know that labels are specific to each plan. If you create a label in one plan, it won't carry over to another. Below that, you can change the bucket the task belongs to, update the progress status, set the priority, and add a start and due date. There's also an option to make the task recurring, which is really useful for repeating activities like reportings or check-ins. Further down, you'll find space to add notes, which is helpful for extra context or details. And at the bottom, you can attach files or links and leave comments for your teammates. If you're using Planner through Teams, these comments can trigger notifications directly inside the Teams activity feed, so nothing gets missed. I always try to fill in as much detail as possible. It might feel like a lot up front, but especially if you're working in a remote or hybrid team, this kind of clarity makes a big difference. It keeps everyone aligned and makes your plan something people can actually rely on. Another great reason to add all these details is that Planner lets you filter and group tasks based on them. In the board view, just click Filters in the top right corner. You can filter by things like labels, priority, due date, or who a task is assigned to. So it's easy to focus on exactly what you need. Right next to the filters, you also see an option to change the grouping of your board. By default, tasks are grouped by a bucket, but you can switch to group them by assignee, progress, priority, or other attributes. This gives you a flexible way to view your plan depending on what you're trying to manage, whether it's who's doing what, what's overdue, or what still needs to get started. And if the board view isn't your thing, you can switch to one of the other views using the top menu. There's Grid View, for a simple table layout, schedule view if you prefer to see tasks on a calendar, and charts view for a quick visual overview of progress, priorities, and assignments. Each view gives you a different perspective on your plan, so you can choose what works best for the way you think and work. That covers the essentials of Microsoft Planner. Key features that can make your workday more productive and help you get more done with less effort. But just as important is learning how to use Microsoft Outlook efficiently. The good news is that it's easier than you might think. So watch this video next, where I'll walk you through my top Outlook productivity tips to help you stay focused, organized, and in control.